I'm going to talk about why the general U.S. history curriculum is flawed in terms of their portrayal or lack thereof of queer history in the United States. So it's really indisputable that people who identify on the LGBTQ plus spectrum have had and continue to have an impact on our society and our country as it is today. Just take our Queer Hall of Fame in the main hallway right now. We've got a ton of people who have made great changes, positive changes, and just positive impacts on our community and our country as a whole. And those aren't all of them. There's unlimited amounts. Those are like only so many who were out, and there's even more who were closeted for their whole lives. However, queer students are still being forgotten and ignored by the very people who are supposed to be molding and shaping us. As simple as it seems, teaching students about those who came before them can be a very empowering experience. This is an experience that queer students who go through the American school systems are being deprived of altogether, as there's no requirement for educators to inform us on LGBTQ plus issues, and we have been left out of textbooks entirely as well. Fairly progressive schools aside, students who go through public schools or religiously affiliated schools, and many STEM schools as well, have been unknowingly missing key points in our country's history. States such as Alabama, Arizona, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Utah all have anti-LGBT curriculum state laws. These laws prohibit educators in public schools from discussing any lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender matters in class. Depending on the state, this could mean teaching restrictions in history classes and or sex ed classes. Other states simply do not mention the inclusion or exclusion of LGBTQ plus people in their public school curriculum, leaving it up to their educators to decide whether or not to include this history in their lesson plans. This results in millions of American teens being left in the dark about such a prevalent topic, and it creates a stigma and a taboo around our existence. From the Stonewall Uprising to Matthew Shepard to Harvey Milk to Don't Ask, Don't Tell to the AIDS epidemic to our marriage not being legalized, the struggles that the queer people who have come before us faced are being completely disregarded, as they were being completely disregarded when they faced those things, and it's unacceptable. This issue was first brought to my attention when the singer Sam Smith, who's openly gay, did an interview with ABC News, and he talked about how as a gay person or anyone on the LGBT spectrum, you're not taught anything about your history in school. So you're like forced to go out on the online and read books and do whatever you need to do. It's put on you. You have this responsibility to learn about your people's history. And that said, I would like to take this opportunity to kind of give a mini history lesson on a couple of those things I just mentioned. Just a little bit of background on what was going on before the Stonewall Uprising actually occurred. There were countless instances of queer people being harassed in all forms of the word. People who were doing these things, the community members and the police, were protected by the law. They were justified by the law that they could do these things. For instance, there was actually a criminal statute that allowed police to arrest people who were wearing less than 3 gender-appropriate articles of clothing. The Stonewall Inn was one of these gay clubs, and in June of 1969, the police in New York City raided this gay club, as they often would do to gay clubs and gay bars, but this time they sparked a riot, and this led to several days of protest, and eventually it really served as such a key, important time in history for the gay rights movement in the United States and across the world as well. Disclaimer, I'm saying we just because this is very personal for me as a gay woman. I can't imagine going through what these people went through, and then after the fact, just to have it all be erased. I just can't imagine it, and so it feels like I'm talking about myself when I talk about these people, because they're a part of my community and I'm a part of their community, really, and I respect them so much, so I just feel very connected to them. Then we have Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was this incredible activist who was one of the very first openly gay people elected in our United States government when he accepted a seat in the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. You know, we thought we finally had the success story. I think we finally had hope. We thought we were getting representation finally in our government, and unfortunately that was cut short when he was murdered nearly a year after his election. Such a tragedy for a lot of people, because he wasn't just advocating for gay people and gay rights. He was advocating for everyone. He was making a difference in people's lives, but specifically in gay people's lives, just because of what he was doing and his words and everything. So just to show you how much so, I wanted to share this quote. He said, "Gay people, we will not win our rights by staying quietly in our closets. We are coming out to fight the lies, the myths, the distortions. We are coming out to tell the truth about gays. For I am tired of the conspiracy of silence. So I'm going to talk about it, and I want you to talk about it too." Don't Ask, Don't Tell was sort of a continuation of this ongoing theme that we're seeing of the mere existence of gay people being stigmatized. It was supposed to theoretically drop the ban on homosexuality in the military. It was enacted in 1993 and it remained in effect until 2011. Basically, it allowed gay people to serve in the military as long as nobody knew that they were gay. So like by the title you can tell, don't tell people your sexuality and people won't ask about your sexuality. It prevented people from engaging in sexual activity, and they were not allowed to talk about their sexual orientation. It was definitely an infringement of freedom of expression. It kind of posed this decision that gay people would have to make between expression of who they were in terms of their sexuality and who they were in terms of, like, you know, their passion for serving the country or being in the military. It's something like, if you always wanted to do that, you have to choose between who you are and your profession. Unfortunately, I won't be able to give you guys a full course worth of queer history lessons from the United States. However, you know, that's kind of the point, that queer history should be incorporated into the general history curriculum, so that queer people or anyone who wants to learn about queer history doesn't have to go, you know, investigating and searching for videos like these where people have to cram all the queer history into, you know, 10 minutes. As I'm reaching the time limit for this video, I just want to reiterate the significance of this topic for me, and I think it would be very significant to a lot of other people if they knew that it was even an issue. You know, in class we've talked about the idea that gay people haven't had equal opportunity or equal rights or, you know, anything close to that for so long that it has just become like a normality to us, and we don't even think about like the injustices that we face. And I think this is one of them, and I think that we need to educate people on this topic, and it's really important to think about how some groups are taught in the main curriculum, in the core class, in U.S. history, American history, while other groups are either being taught as an elective or being taught not at all. You know, there is a message in that, and it's an important one. So thank you for listening and watching. I hope you learned something.